If you had to define a star, how will you define a star?
A star is someone that has found alignment in something greater than themselves, something worth their lives.
Very deep, you are deep.
Put me on a feeling I never had.
I've always been delusional, yes. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonya, and today, oh girl, not y'all, why y'all didn't tell me your hair was out of place? Today, we're gonna be talking about one of my, well, okay, I say this every time, but she really is one of my favorite artists. I feel like it's really not surprising that I'm featuring her on this series. I did talk about her a bit in this video. I'll put it in the cards. However, today I want to go a little bit more in depth on her story. So, her family may know her as Temilade. We know her as Tems though. And so today we're going to be talking about Miss Tems. Love her down. I love when an artist actually loves the art and it's not a money grab. And one thing about Tems, she's going to be introspective in her songs and she's going to be original in her songs. And it just makes it so easy to love her music. But to go even deeper, when I was watching her interviews in preparation for this video, one thing that just stood out to me was her unrelenting sense of just knowing herself and honoring herself and being authentic with herself, and also what her idea of success is. It was such a breath of fresh air to hear what her idea of success is, because I feel like in especially the United States, success equals a certain formula, and that formula just doesn't work for everyone. So she really dug deep and found what worked for her. And I will get into that a little bit later in the video. But before we get into that, a little bit of background on Tems. Tems was born June 11th, 1995 in England, and she was raised there for the first few years of her life. But at 4 years old, her mother and her brother moved back to Lagos, Nigeria after her parents divorced. She grew up as a very shy and sheltered child, not really talking to many people or making many friends. Honestly, it came to a point where she didn't even like being around people that much.
I was super introverted. I just get lost in my own world.
Because of this, during the free time she had in her school days, she would spend a lot of time in the music room to practice singing. However, as a child, she didn't even like her real singing voice, so she would sing in a softer tone to sound like the other girls. Which is so ironic because her voice is one of the things that makes her music so identifiable and literally just so special. I feel like the things that we get bullied for, or the things that people tend to talk about most when we're children, are the things that set us apart and make us special and attract people to us when we're adults. From a young age, Tems was pretty much taught to suppress any part of her that didn't fit the status quo. Because at the time, doing anything out of excelling academically and pursuing a professional career, such as being a doctor or an engineer, wasn't respected, and so being a musician wasn't a respected career. This was one of the driving forces that led her to go to college and study economics. After receiving her economics degree, she went on to work in the digital marketing industry.
I was doing digital marketing. I got demoted to a personal assistant.
They demoted you. Damn, you were bad at the job.
Yeah, I think I was. I tried my best though. I just couldn't believe that was my job. Yeah, I was shouted on so much. Everything I did seemed to annoy everybody.
And absolutely hated it. One day she was like, this can't be my life. I cannot live like this for the rest of my life. And she quit her job and started doing music full time. And of course, her family thought that she was absolutely insane.
When I said, oh yeah, I'm quitting my job, I'm going to sing now, everybody was like, she's on drugs, she's smoking, this girl is on serious. She's just lazy. She just likes to, she's now saying she sings. Really? When have you ever sung in your life?
Doing music full time wasn't the easiest decision for her because all the cards were stacked up against her. She had no connections in the music industry. She had no formal vocal training. She didn't have an established fan base. Life doesn't stop for anyone, so she still had bills she had to pay, while also trying to follow her passion. And if you ask any logical person, it sounds like she was bound to fail. But I will say, sometimes when it feels like all the cards are stacked up against you, those are the times, and those deep valleys, those are the times that really shows you like who you really are, what you're really made of, and what you really believe about yourself. So after deciding to take music seriously, she went to producers to try to get help, but she couldn't afford what they were asking for. And so she learned how to produce for herself, engineer herself, and essentially do everything that she had to do for herself because she knew exactly what sound she was going for.
At what point did you decide that you wanted to be a producer?
Initially it was really hard. When I first, started trying to go on digital beats, and it was really hard for me to get someone to produce a beat for me for an affordable price. And it was, people were just handing me out the throwaway. So I was learning how to produce when I made Try Me. I just said, tune, 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 tune. Oh, this nice.
So she took her music into her own hands. Something that was really important to her was staying true to herself and staying authentic. So she didn't accept the throwaway beats producers would try to give her because she had a vision and learned how to execute it. It was this determination and self-assurance that led her to produce her first single, Mr. Rebel, in 2018. This is the song that introduced many listeners to Tems. But what put the nail in the coffin for Tems was the release of her EP for Broken Ears in 2020. That EP, as well as being featured on WizKid's Essence record, catapulted her to a worldwide stage. Y'all remember that song? It went absolutely crazy in 2020.
How much has your life changed in the past few years?
When I released my first song, I couldn't afford to upload the song. My auntie helped me upload my song.
How much
online.
is that? How much
it
was
it?
It
was $12.
Now, all of this didn't happen overnight. She went from being the quiet child who hated her singing voice to being an adult that was stuck in a career that she knew wasn't for her. And so she had to make the decision, like, how do I want my life to go? Do I want to be stuck in a career that I absolutely hate, but that is stable, and when people look at me, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, she got a good job? Am I gonna be stuck over here, or am I gonna allow the gifts that God gave me to make room for me? Am I gonna pull the trigger and make the hard decision to fall and hope that God catches me? And I must say that her decision was a scary one. Okay, Tems is daring, because a lot of people would say, oh, she could have just did both. But for her, she felt like it was either one or the other. She quit her job, started her music, and it's taken her very far. This decision was really risky, but it worked out for her because she bet on herself, which is something that a lot of people are really terrified of doing. When you look at Tems today, she's been nominated for over 45 awards. She's won 16 of those, including a Grammy. And so, yeah, this decision worked out amazing for her. And I feel like we won, okay, because we got all the art, okay? We got all of this amazing, spectacular music that she put her heart and soul into. But if you ask Tems, it's not about the awards. It's about her being able to say, I bet on myself and I figured it out for myself and I followed the gift that God gave me, and now I can authentically be myself.
Until I was 3, and I had issues just expressing myself through words. I was very quiet, and my whole life I just thought I was meant to be the thing that you step on. I just accepted it. And music was tell her how I felt, so I'll just write a song about it and I will never tell her. And yeah, man, my leg always used to shake.
One thing that I really, really like about Tems is her outlook on what success is.
I'm not doing what I do to be number one. If somebody else is doing it to be number one, do that number one.
Go ahead, baby.
Go ahead, because that's not what makes me happy. I would rather not be number one and be miserable and be having to keep up appearances. So if I can't do what I do, if I can't be true to myself, then it's not worth it to me. That means I'm faking everything.
I feel like growing up, especially growing up in the United States, because that's really the only viewpoint I can speak on. I'm literally from South Carolina. This is the only place I know. Growing up here, people see success as you went to college, you got your degree, you got a good job, you got benefits, you got a nice house, you're married, you got 2 kids, you got a dog and a white picket fence. And so many people are just like, oh, that's what success is? Okay, I'll aim for that. Instead of defining what success is in their own life, they just take on that cookie cutter formula and they're just like, okay, let me aim for that. And then they finally get that and they're not happy. They're unfulfilled. I feel like we would all be a lot happier if we stop comparing ourselves to the next person and define what success is to ourselves. What is your idea of success? Let that define how you go about your life. If you spend the short amount of time that we have on this planet being defined by everybody else outside of you and just doing what everybody else wants you to do, you will never be fulfilled and you will never be running off of joy. I hope this is making sense. What I mean by that, and I was literally just talking to my friend Victoria today about it. When you're not operating out of authenticity, you burn out. You burn out so fast because you're already operating off of an artificial substance. If you're being what everybody else wants you to be and you subscribe to being this shell of yourself, of course you're going to burn out. Of course you're going to feel like, dang, nothing I do is right. Dang, like I can't get fulfilled. It's because you're not trusting yourself and being who you were made to be. Where am I going with this? Y'all, I feel like I just went out on a tangent. I guess where I'm getting at is you have to choose your hard. Living for everybody else is hard. You're never going to feel fulfilled if you're just living for everybody else. But also, following passions, following dreams is also very hard. It's not all pretty wrapped up in a bow. Tems' success did not come overnight. When Tems quit her job, she gave up her very stable income to follow a dream. She didn't know that it was going to work out like this. When she quit her job, she had to go through the ugly stage of, oh my gosh, I don't know where my next check is coming from. When it came to uploading her first song, she couldn't even afford to upload her first song. It was $12. Even if God is calling you to do something, that doesn't mean that it's going to be all peachy keen and all easy. It does mean that obedience will be honored in whatever he's calling you to do. But you are going to go through some trials and some tribulations. In 2022, Tems was interviewed by GQ, and she expressed that the year before she released Mr. Rebel, she was living alone and struggling financially. She was putting pressure on herself to provide for her family, which was really difficult without the security of a stable job. She even expressed that there were times that not only was she broke, but she was hopeless. She used to steal food, and she would even go to her aunt's house just so that she could have some food to take home. It eventually made her depressed and even question her existence. I feel like sometimes when you follow a dream or a passion or something that a desire of yours, the closer you get to it, the further it seems like you're away from it. I want to go back to when I said that the cards were stacked up against her. Sometimes when the cards seem like they're stacked up against you, that's when God can come in and really do his thing. Like, and it does show you what you're made of. It shows you exactly what you believe about yourself. It shows you where your faith is at. And it also shows you what God can do with a little bit, because she didn't have the money, she didn't have music connections, she didn't have formal training, like, and now look at her. Sometimes I feel like it's a springboard. Not, well, what I say a springboard? Sometimes it feels like it's like a slingshot. Like, okay, I'm going to pull you all the way back here. I'm going to stretch you all the way back here just for you to spring forward. And when I look at Tems, I'm like, how did, like, you literally went from this to this. And that's unheard of. And people will say that that is literally impossible. And she did that. I'm not telling you guys to go out and quit your jobs. I'm not telling you guys to not go to college or do something like that. You did not hear that from me. You didn't hear that from this video. But what I am saying is that if you really get in tune with God and the gifts that he gave you, he will let you know in his timing when to go after those gifts, when to really utilize those gifts, when you need to put something down and pick up that gift and not fumble it. And in his timing, he will show you exactly and do exactly what he wants with that gift that he gave you. But it has to be in his timing, not yours. And I feel like Tems was just in that pocket and the timing was right and she went after it. And now look at her. This video is not meant to tell you guys to be irresponsible or anything like that. But it is to tell you guys to get in tune with God. Wait on him. Get in tune with his timing of things, you know, be obedient, and then watch what he can do in your life when you fully let go and you trust him. That's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say. Y'all, usually I script out my videos, and I did do a little bit of scripting for this, but y'all, this latter half was like off the dome, okay? Hopefully it made any sense. If it didn't, I'll try to make it make sense when I'm editing, but I think that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for even clicking on this video. If this is your first time seeing me, I actually have a playlist full of videos just like this. It's called the Muse Journal. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a beautiful day, a beautiful night whenever you're watching this. Bye, y'all.